Hello and welcome to the Comic-spiracy, episode 481 for the week of Tuesday, December 29th, 2020, our final podcast for this wretched year. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Toby.
Whoa, what the heck?
Oh, flipping the script. I will still be Kevin Short.
And Charlie.
Well, those are all the correct names, just in the wrong order. So when you think you hate Kevin, you actually just hate Toby, which is normal.
I'm used to it.
Oh.
Hey, do you guys remember when there were like 17 comic book movies a year? I guess that's probably a little more accurate. We haven't had one of these in a while. We're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. Most of the podcast, I think. It's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
We used to do this more regularly. We did like half a Birds of Prey episode, I think.
And
so. 10 minutes on Bloodshot back in...
And that was just me talking about it.
February and early March. It's been a while since we did a movie episode.
Didn't you guys talk New Mutants for a minute?
I was the only one who had seen it at that point, so it was like 3 minutes on the New Mutants.
I still haven't seen it. But this is as close to normal as I think we're gonna see for probably at least until the summer, if not early fall next year. And a comic book movie released in formats that everyone's able to see all at the same time, all on the same weekend. We're recording the week after it's out on Tuesday as normal, so. This is as close to normal as I think we've had an episode this entire year. But we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 84. Usually in our spoiler or in our movie episodes, full spoilers as the podcast goes on. But beginning, we like to stay light, kind of give our thoughts, general overviews, and then we'll dive more into it with full spoilers in a little bit here. Now, normally, I pick a random number from a number generator and just figure out who's going to start, because it's not fun to just do the same order every time. Mix it up a little bit. However, I was told specifically by Toby.
Yes.
Kevin. That I had to start.
Yes, I told you that, Ryan.
Yeah.
Go.
Yes, that I had to start the review on this episode.
Yes.
Okay. And I normally don't like to even be the one that starts, because I am talking my half the podcast.
So. But it's DC. So it's only right that you start.
Well,
so
I don't know.
Usually you save yourself for the last word, which I didn't want this time. So you start.
It's totally random.
Shit. It's like it's like that randomator on that late night show with Jill Fallon or whatever, when they do the music thing where it totally pressed like a button that's not even a button, and the randomator like does some song picks. No, that's how you do it. You press this invisible button and then say a name. So this okay. time I pressed the invisible button, and that's not something for later, but it's your turn.
Isn't it like random.org or randomnumber.org?
I literally would just be like, Brock is 1, Kevin's 2, and I would just go around and be like, all right, and Kevin Sharp starts this time.
Yeah, but you always save yourself for the last. So.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. No. You always get the last word, too, that way.
We go on our circular table. Anyway, this time I am starting the conversation here.
Will it be random after you speak or not?
Normally it would be me, Brock. It would be me, Brock, Kevin Sharp, Toby, and then Charlie. But you guys can go in whatever order, I guess. It doesn't matter. Toby maybe wants the second word. I have no idea. Maybe Toby wants the last word.
Maybe.
So, Wonder Woman, a lot of high hopes. Obviously, they've been delayed a year. All right, supposed to be out last Christmas. I'm obviously, if anyone listening to this podcast knows, I'm pretty easygoing on the DC movies. I generally tend to like them. Wonder Woman 84 had just a lot of hype to live up to. I think that first one was so good. This one does not quite hit those same highs as the first one, obviously. But I thought it was a pretty fun, enjoyable movie. There's problems. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. But I think it might not have quite the same heart that Shazam had, and it doesn't have the same like level of action that Aquaman had. I think both of those did a really good job, kind of with those parts of the movie. But I think it tried. It was different, much different than the first one. I think the first one was a very dark, much darker movie, more action. Obviously, World War I's a very horrible time to set, to have something set in.
It's bleak.
Whereas
very bleak.
1984 clearly the aesthetics are shockingly different. But I think they wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted. Is it cheesy at points? Sure, but I feel like a lot of that tone's intentional. Is it? Does it? This is an Endgame, right? But this isn't like fucking Amazing Spider-Man 2 or I don't know what else, like Steel. Like this isn't some the right movie. I thought it was well done. Gal Gadot's still great. I would have preferred maybe a little more Wonder Woman in this, a little less of the romance stuff. But that's me talking. That's straight white guy talking. Well, more specifics, and I have a couple things I really want to talk about later when we really get into the nitty gritty. But I really liked Maxwell Lord, kind of the main villain. I felt like Cheetah was a little underrepresented. I wish there was more Cheetah. We kind of get a little taste of her. Maybe they wanted to more there later. I don't know what the thought there was, but I thought Cheetah was going to have a bigger role in it. But I have a lot to say about Maxwell Lord when we get into some full spoilers. We'll deal with that later. So, low on my DC list, but my DC list tends to be higher than most people's. So I still thought it was like a pretty solid B. Fun, enjoyable, has its flaws, not perfect, a little long, but yeah, overall I enjoyed it. Brock, you wanna jump on? We'll do our normal
go around.
A normal table read.
Yeah, so going into it, I've seen it twice. I watched it Friday night, and then I also watched it yesterday with my kids. And so seeing it twice.
Oh, sorry, I actually meant to say we watched it Friday night as well, Christmas Day, 4K, HBO Max, streaming, perfect, no problems. I did hear some people, I meant to say this earlier, I know some people had some problems like kind of right when it went live, but I think a lot of people were just doing it. We watched it no problem at all where we were. Everything looked perfect. The film quality was great. So I think HBO, I think they nailed their first 4K streaming thing. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No. You bring that up. It's so to be on the safe side, I let it buffer. I just played it and then let it sit for a minute and paused. We did get one point where it had to buffer, and the film stopped, and we saw the little purple dots. But for the most part, it streamed fine in standard, the one I watched it in. It was entertaining. It was not as good as the first one. I have some difficulties with some of the plot elements and how the story unfolds throughout. But overall, I think for what it is, with some of the cheesiness of the 80s and why it was set during the Cold War, I understand. But yeah, I think overall it was an enjoyable movie. I'm probably scoring it less than you, but like at a B-. So yeah, it's pretty much, we'll get into stuff later, but yeah, I mean, we got some more Wonder Woman at least, somewhat.
Yeah, Kevin.
Just before I say anything about the movie itself,
we're going in the wrong order. You're Toby.
Oh,
we're
right.
Waiting on Kevin.
Sorry.
No. Toby can go first. That's not a problem.
Okay.
For the love of God, Kevin, please
yes.
go.
Okay. For the record, all of us, I want to say it was maybe September on this show when there was all this uncertainty about what movies were going to be released when and how, and what would you pay for at home. like how much would you pay? And I think most everybody who's on here right now said they would pay for Wonder Woman 84 when we threw out the price, like $20, $30, $40.
Yeah.
Okay. I was one of those people. I was one of those people who saw that first one 3 times in the theater and probably 3 more times since the theater. I freaking hated this movie. I mean, this reminds me of something that was dug out of a time capsule from the mid-90s when we were just happy to have any superhero movies at all and would just take anything that remotely resembled the comics.
Go further back. I would go even further. I would go
okay.
to the 80s.
So, without spoilers, because Ryan, you touched on a couple points, the Maxwell Lord plot is like something that would be wrapped up in 20 minutes on a Saturday morning Super Friends episode. And that's not a compliment. The Cheetahs had about 6 origins probably since the Golden Age, and hats off to the filmmakers for finding the least interesting version of all of them, which I liked better when it was Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. Chris Pine, never mind. Brock, you mentioned the Cold War. This just seemed like a parade of 80s cliches, leg warmers, breakdancing, big hair, funny clothes.
Oh, I'm gonna
it said nothing about the 80s at all. The Cold War, it could have been set in the 50s. There was a Cold War, the 60s, the 70s. It was just window dressing. Well, okay, you can disagree. I'm just saying there was no thematic resonance to that particular moment in history at all. I've seen worse movies than this in 2020, easily. New Mutants being one of them. But if you measure expectation versus what was delivered, this was pretty much a total wipeout for me, which I would never watch again in my lifetime. And that's after seeing the first one 6 times. Okay, Toby.
We'll talk about the 80s later. God damn. Okay, Kevin.
Well, Ryan, you're not allowed to like it because it's from the 80s.
Well, that's what I was saying, right?
No, you're not allowed to. You know why?
Right. I don't like fake 80s stuff.
Exactly.
This was so subtly 80s compared to shit like
subtly. Subtly. What's that mall montage again? Subtle.
Hold on. Time out. There's a specific reason why Ryan is not allowed to like this 80s movie because of why he hated Stranger Things. Therefore, with the same feeling, he cannot like this because there was an arcade shot where there was an arcade that was from 1987.
Yep, I know.
Sure, but because of that, because of your fury of not liking Stranger Things, because of a one song.
No, Stranger Things, like there's a bunch of stuff like that just beats you, like Ready Player One and all of that shit beats you over the head with it so hard. Wonder Woman is what like the complaint I heard from people was it's not 80s enough. There was nothing in this movie that said it was in the 80s. It was so subtle compared to a lot of these like cliche 80s flashback movies.
I tell you,
and that's why it didn't bother
me as of late. I tell you which one does the time period the best.
Which one?
Atomic Blonde.
Oh yeah, good call on that. Good call.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yep. Take that, Ryan Higgins.
I haven't seen it.
It'll be fun.
Well, Toby or Charlie, when do you go? What's your thoughts?
I watched this one twice now, both partially. The first time I did 3 Tobys, and the second time I had to skip around because I was trying to catch up on time. It's weird because I really, really, really want to like it, but the more I think about it, the more it makes me angry. But I tried to watch the scenes that I missed the first time around, and I'm just trying to make sense of it all. So I have a lot of questions and a lot of things I didn't like, and very little I did like. But I am very excited to watch another movie by the same team, which they already announced. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wonder Woman 3.
Yeah.
Or do you mean Cleopatra? Because that's also the same team.
I'll watch that too, and I'm sure Gal is going to find herself in the Rogue Squadron movie too. So I'll watch that also. Charles, Xavier.
So, I agree with a lot that's been said. I don't feel like it lived up to the expectations and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I still found it enjoyable. I didn't come out of it hating it like Kevin and such, but there wasn't, most of the time, even movies that we nitpick forever, I feel like there's a particular scene that stands out that we all kind of get behind. Like even in BVS, we've talked about when Wonder Woman shows up there, and
Yeah.
we talk about that scene, and in Wonder Woman 1 there's the march across the no man's land, or even the combat in the town later. There are key scenes that sort of stand out to me. Where this one really kind of falls down is there were a lot of scenes trying to be that for me, but none of them felt like that to me. And I think part of it, and I know I nitpicked this a little bit at the beginning of our Justice League episode 2, where I have a idea of Wonder Woman and her abilities that don't always match up with what's on screen. And for me, the lasso is where some of that kind of came in with this one, with the whole multi-use lasso for almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they
Yeah.
stretched that to the kind of the
To
furthest
the limit.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
To add to it, I didn't like it that, look, Wonder Woman is cool on her own. And I felt like there was a little too much Spider-Man, maybe a little too much Superman.
So that's one thing I actually really liked about this movie.
Okay.
Wonder Woman put the bystanders first in most of the action sequences and that kind of stuff. Like in the mall, if there was a kid in danger, she would prioritize saving the kid before engaging the bad guys. In other scenes, I really appreciated that, because that's something that I don't feel like we see in these superhero movies very much, if at all.
Yeah, no, I was referring just to the lasso itself.
Yeah, no, I agree with that kind of the calling out the Spider-Man and that kind of stuff. Like that's where I kind of felt like this movie let me down the most. Is I wanted one of those scenes that I could instantly kind of think of when I think of this movie, where it kind of shined. And the closest I have to that is I liked the opening on Themyscira quite a bit. But
well, that's a great way to actually start kind of going into the movie. So full spoilers from this point out. Let's start with that scene, Charlie. Yeah, I like that scene a lot too. It was cool. What you were saying?
I think that scene was very well done. It had a very good sort of message of sort of what Diana was learning there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that scene was at a different quality compared to the rest of the movie for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like the Themyscira stuff in the first one too. I thought that was kind of a high point for a lot of people.
I wish I could credit the source for this, but there was a Patty Jenkins interview somewhere, obviously somewhere, but where she said that scene is included. One of the main reasons that scene is in there is for people watching this who had never seen the first movie to understand kind of what Diana lost originally.
I saw that same sort of interview and quote and a few things, because there was, I guess, some pushback from executives also feeling like it had two openings. And
oh, right, that was it. Yeah,
have two openings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't agree with her purpose for having it in there, but I feel like it absolutely should have been. This is one of those general kind of things where I don't feel like you needed to understand she was an Amazon and that kind of stuff if you haven't seen the first one. I feel like if you have any understanding of the character, you'll know that already. If you don't, I don't think that scene communicated very well, where she's from and that history and that kind of stuff. So I feel like it was a great part of the movie. I think it was fine in the opening. I think it would have been fine if they had put it somewhere else.
Well, I think that was more to show what the Amazons in general can do. So when she's then flipping around in the mall and doing all this stuff, obviously she's a level above them, right? But I think it works, and it also gives that, it's looser than a direct comparison of the events of this then kind of mirror the events later, but the general sense of you can't take the easy way out, you can't cheat.
Oh yeah, and I thought
gonna,
that message from that flashback was perfect.
Yeah, and I think it resonates enough at the end. It wasn't like I did see some comments where people are like, the opening had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. I'm like, well,
that's what I said.
Yeah, but other people said it too. But it does. It does. I think it does.
It
resonate.
only has resonance in the scene where she's walking away from Steve and she's giving. She's no longer cheating and going the easy way, and she's renouncing her wish, and that's it. Everything else in there, because at that point she has to make the choice of whether to take the easy way or the hard way, and that's the only scene. It's not when she makes the wish or anything. That's the only reason. That's most of the way through the movie.
That scene is the scene in which she's like, nope, I could have this magic love thing that I've been pining for, no pun intended, forever, but I'm not going to do this. I'm gonna take the hard way out.
What? No, it's not you, Ryan. It's I look, it's Charlie. When you said I hate the movie because of what I hoped for. Objectively, I'd probably grade it a C minus, but my feelings are harsher than that. That scene that you're referring to, I know we're going way out of order. Boy, I hate that scene where she gives him up, because it's the exact same beats as the end of the first Wonder Woman, where he says, "You got to let me go. That's the only way we're going to save the world," essentially. And the first one is him flying away in that bomber to stop that. I can't remember now. What was it? I should have refreshed. It was gas, right?
Yeah.
And in this, it's him saying, "You got to let me go. It's the only way." Like, it's the same beats. It's just the laziness. It's just
there were so many beats in this that were the reverse of what we got in the first movie, right?
Good.
Right.
That's the same beat. I wish it was the reverse.
Well, no, it's the reverse because she's walking away this time. Before it was him moving away.
Yeah, she's physically walking away, but he's the one who's saying, "You have to let me go. That's the only way we will win," quote unquote, win. He's the one insisting it to her, and then she follows through on that. You see, it's the same beat. It's the same arc as the first movie. That's why the whole Steve Trevor return was such a waste and just ugh. And I hate to sum it up with that, but go ahead.
So this is one of the things that, because I've been thinking about this a lot. There was a lot of character building and relationship building in the first movie that felt very like there was one or two missteps, but I felt like a stronger connection between Diana and Steve in the first movie, and I felt like a stronger connection between Diana and the members of their squad as they were going out, and there was a lot of this sort of interpersonal connection, even between Diana and Etta. And all that kind of stuff. They did a very good job of taking this person who was sort of outside the world and connecting into the world. Now, I understand in this movie, the idea is even though she's part of the world, she's walking outside of the world and not connecting any. But I felt like that's one of those things that was missing from this movie compared to the first movie, is that those character connections and that kind of stuff really fueled that movie more than this one. And I think part of it is because they also kind of made it feel like, and I understand this, and even from a storytelling perspective, it makes sense that she would have idealized Steve at this point after her sacrifice and everything else. But I felt like they kind of, if you look at where things ended in the first movie and him being ripped away, that was still very early on. They had their riffs and come back together and that kind of thing. They didn't really build on anything between them, or even the idea of, "I'm not the person you thought I was." In fact, he kind of came back as the idealized person she thought he was.
Well, and this goes to the entire kind of point of, it's not really him, right? This is all magic. This is all God stuff. How much of this is really, was this really him? Was this just this idealized version? And was her was she telling herself to let him go through this like, you know, this conjured version of him, right? Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. You can maybe question, you know, why is she still, you know, after 70 years, wouldn't she have kind of gotten over this? But you also, you know, I mean, Amazons are very long lived, and you know, things are different. So
You saw Justice League, right? She
First
still
Love.
wasn't over it.
Yeah, well, and Justice League, you know, I mean, and there's the weirdness of, you know, Justice League being like, or BVS being like, you know, oh, you disappeared, you know, no one's seen you, well, except for
the major battle in the White House you had in the 80s.
Yeah, this little
video
John
cameras that didn't catch anything before you knocked them out.
But you know, whatever. I think we can. I think we could probably wipe that line away. Assuming, yeah, that's fine.
I just wish in a 2.5-hour movie, I don't mean to make this thing 3 hours, but I wish they had taken literally 2 minutes to explore, of all the people she's lost in her life, the wish she goes to immediately is this guy she knew. And let's just say that the timetable for Wonder Woman, the first movie, was what, 2 or 3 weeks that she knew him. Like, you lost your mother, you lost your beloved aunt, but yet the first person, the place where your heart goes first is this dude. And again, you don't have to add in a huge section of the movie, but just could you explore that in one scene? That seems way more interesting than many of the things that they spent time on as is presented.
Well, I think like throughout the entire movie, it felt more like she was a parent watching a child experience stuff for the first time, because she was like, yeah, there's this. And like, it really resonates in when they go to the Smithsonian space, and he's like, this kid in the candy store, she's standing back, like watching his excitement. And you're like,
well, it's the reverse of the first movie, where in the first movie he was showing her how everything works, and now in this one she's like, oh yeah, it's been 70 years, things have changed.
I'm glad we've learned in the DC universe that the Smithsonian keeps a full fleet of fueled vintage aircraft in operational condition on and apparently an airfield outside the museum, ready to be flown away at any moment.
We were talking about this on the Geekbox last night, and Ryan Scott actually liked Wonder Woman quite a bit, which really surprised me. We were talking about this very scene, and he brought up the rule of cool, and this is a trope of, you have something that's cool, but it doesn't really make sense. If it's a cool enough idea, you should just go with it, because sure, in this world, they have it, and it's there.
I would argue back with, depending on how many branches off that cool path you're going, like it's him knowing how to fly a plane that was invented way after he was dead. It's that it's fueled and can reach Egypt from Washington, D.C., of which there is no such plane. That's why we have aircraft carriers. And it's that she can turn it magic, or she can turn it invisible. You could have just wiped it all away and hand waved it and said, she can make it fly there, and just go with it. And we're done.
I will give you...
But he had problems with the escalator.
Right. And he's like in shock about the existence of a subway, even those were invented in the 1800s.
All he knows is how to fly. Look, I have more problem with the invisible jet than I do with him flying the jet.
I find the invisible jet more realistic than him flying the jet.
But I just want to know where the coffee cup is.
God. Ryan, tell us about Maxwell Lord, though. I'm curious.
I'll 100% talk about Maxwell Lord if you want to do this.
Well, I don't know if I want to. I'm just curious.
First, we could talk about Maxwell Lord, but we got to talk about something else. We have to talk about the Dreamstone.
Oh God, shoot me now.
Okay. When he says the Dreamstone, I'm like, okay. There's a couple origins to Cheetah. This version is what the hell's her name?
Who?
Barbara Minerva, right?
The character?
Yeah. She's the one that gets it from the not Egyptian. What the hell
It's
is
an African god of like.
Is he African?
Yeah, like an African god or something. I think at one point it's a Mayan god. Like she's with her origin. It's been some.
I had the name on me. Hold on.
Some panther or cheetah looking idol or whatever.
Yeah, no, I had it earlier. It's the no, in the newer version it's fucking Kataga. That's what it is. It's the cheetah god. This all comes from the George Perez version, right? I mean, so this is like the modern version. So she gets it from it's like she gets it from like some priest of Kataga, right?
You mean like that doll thing from Suicide Squad?
What doll thing?
Well, the Enchantress gets all the powers from the doll. She opens up the jars that had the body parts in it, right? But she uses the heart or whatever.
Yeah, it's similar. Sure, similar idea. All right. So this is like their the cheetah god, right? That she gets her power from. So clearly they're going something different here. But I'm like, is there another Dreamstone that I'm just not thinking of? Is this like a Wonder Woman origin thing? No. I looked it up after the movie just to be sure. No, there's only one Dreamstone, and that is Dr. Destiny / Morpheus's power gem, the Dreamstone.
But one, it doesn't make any sense with the
hot damn.
No,
I don't care.
Yeah, no.
I have my own headcanon for all of this now.
It doesn't make the
motherfucking endless.
No,
everything makes sense now.
Because they had an opportunity. They had an opportunity to expand this out, and they didn't.
No, like this explains everything.
No, it doesn't. It explains nothing. Explain the ring with the Latin and then the God language in the middle.
It's just like the thing that bound the thing that bound the Dreamstone crystal.
Okay, so where is it? At the end of the movie,
I don't know. After Maximum Lord ungemmed himself, it went away, right? So think about, right? So you have Silver Age. You have Dr. Destiny, Justice League villain,
who has the Dreamstone for Dr. Destiny. Then Dream.
He has it's called the Dreamstone. That's what it's called, right? I don't care what it is. It's called the Dreamstone.
Ruby.
And
it's not
he's able to use this to sort of alter reality, right? In Neil Gaiman's Sandman, they take Dr. Destiny and the Dreamstone and reposition it as one of the kind of talismans of Morpheus that can draw his power. And in the wrong hands, in the case of Dr. Destiny, it's really fucked up stuff. The end of the movie, when stuff starts going horribly wrong, when Maximum Lord goes full Gollum, and the wish powers are going fucking crazy, like that could 100% be like the diner issue of Sandman with Dr. Destiny, right? I mean, it's that level of craziness of this.
The thing is Dr. Destiny was already a psychopath. And the Dreamstone just amplified that even more.
Well, it gave him the ability to like completely alter. He's altering time. He's altering reality in this like little microcosm in that particular issue. But when he's a villain in the '60s, obviously he's doing all this other stuff with it. Now, I don't care what the continuity here could be. The powers are not so dissimilar that this is clearly the same thing here. Like, we're talking Infinity Gauntlet level of power with what this object is. So Maxwell Lord, again, let me pull away from the movie for a second here. With the assumption of Maxwell Lord having his sort of like mild level mind manipulation control ability mixed with the Dreamstone, that is a dangerous level of power, where he could rewrite all of reality. And that's basically what was happening at the end. I mean, they turned him into like the evil genie from Aladdin, right? It's the monkey paw problem, is that everything you do, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. But like, it seems a little goofy at first, but that it spirals out of control so fast. And I really liked what they did with Max Lord. Yes, this is different from the comic books. It's a different take on his powers in the comics. He just has this sort of more mental control. The Dreamstone is this other thing. Sort of pushing those two together in the movie, I thought was an interesting idea to expand on his comic book power, expand on what the Dreamstone is and can do, and I thought it worked. Yeah, just something about the way like that, like it spiraled out of control so fast. That was like legit scary. I was like, wow, like they're fucking up this entire world horribly. And the whole magic thing is their out, obviously, because he could just, once he undoes it, everything just kind of, people complain, oh yeah, sure, everyone's going to give up their dream. Well, no, I think you guys are misreading this. Once he gave up the stone, it was already starting to loosen, but once he gave it up, everything.
No, everybody was looking at the lasso of truth that was touching them and making them renounce, because that golden screen, it was the influence of the golden screen.
Yeah, I mean, it was her talk, but she started the catalyst of kind of people realizing, oh shit, this is not working the way we intended. But him kind of, all these nuclear missiles just disappear because he kind of gives up his magic genie power, right? So I thought it was again, it's very different. Obviously, it's very different than the original Maxwell Lord, because he wasn't really a villain in those early comics. Not everyone is a fan of where they put him in Identity Crisis era, Infinite Crisis time period, but. I thought it was a cool take on his powers, and I'm happy they didn't kill him at the end. I hate it when they kill villains in the movies, and I thought he was sleazy, and just the way it get different from the comics, but it fit. I thought it worked.
Well,
Dreamstone, fucking Dreamstone!
It's not the Dreamstone.
Oh, that's
no,
like my favorite part.
No.
Oh, I'm so excited.
No, it's not. It's some god that's of lies. It's not the Dreamstone.
Yeah, maybe the god of lies is lying about it being 4,000 years old or whatever the fuck, because he stole it from the dreaming, and fucking we got the Dreamstone, Brock. Of all people, how are you not ecstatic that this Sandman thing is in a standard DC movie?
What Sandman thing? I don't see no Ruby.
That is your perception of it. Just like Morpheus, the Dreamstone is whatever it needs to be.
But what? How do you explain the ring?
What ring?
The ring that was around the stone that they read the Latin off of, and then inside had the god language in it that she touched on Nexalord's desk and goes,
"Yeah,
what the heck is this?"
Yeah, okay. What about it?
That's not connecting it to Morpheus's Dreamstone.
Oh, maybe that's how this god of lies got it. He did some binding spell on it to pull, because when he turns to the stone, doesn't the ring like fall off, right?
Yes, it falls off because the ring.
So it's not the ring is not the Dreamstone. The ring is this other thing attached to it.
The ring basically states what you want to imbibe with the power. Put this around.
Yeah, so it's the instruction manual. He found the instruction manual,
but it's not the Dreamstone.
Wait,
wait. I just have to say real quick, Kevin, then you can...
No, go, Charlie, go.
When Ryan was saying this is as close as we're going to get to a normal podcast episode, I was questioning it until this very moment. Now it totally feels like...
Yeah. I feel my virginity regrowing.
It feels so good to be
Ryan, a clarifying question. Do you think that is actually the Sandman Dreamstone, or is this your headcanon?
Neil Gaiman co-wrote this movie. It's the Sandman Dreamstone.
No.
Okay.
Did I say Neil Gaiman? Holy shit! I meant Jeff Johns. I was looking at something that said Neil Gaiman. Sorry.
Did you get that?
I was looking at the Dreamstone stuff. Jeff Johns co-wrote this movie. Yes, it is the Dreamstone.
It's definitely Ryan headcanon when Neil Gaiman co-wrote this movie.
Yeah.
Jeff Johns co-wrote this movie. Yes, it is the Dreamstone. Yes, it is Neil Gaiman. Morpheus. Well, Dr. Destiny's Dreamstone.
It's some god that they listed off a bunch of names for. Not once did they say Loki, because they don't want to associate themselves with a Marvel movie.
So the god of lies is Duke of Deception.
Duke of Deception or something. Yeah, there's a bunch of there's a bunch of different names for it across all different types of multi deity religions.
Yep.
But it's not.
And he stole this from Morpheus.
No. Why would Morpheus have a cheap satine thing? It's a cheap rock. It's fake. It's not real. He had a ruby.
It doesn't matter what it is. It's the power inside, not what it is.
But that wasn't the dream's power. It was this lying god's power.
But it wasn't, because it's the dream stone.
No.
Moving on.
Oh my God.
Kevin, what was your take on Maxwell Lord?
For it to work?
Charlie, what was your take on Maxwell Lord? As an owner of the JLI Omnibus.
So, this is one of those cases where I feel like my opinion of it changed between the first watch and the second watch. On the first watch, there were aspects of the ways some of this was going that I wasn't really clear on the rules or how I saw some of this working, because it seemed like in some cases when you would take something in return, the person was like, what? I didn't agree to that. And in other cases, the person was just like, yeah, totally. That's sort of like the hand wave and that kind of stuff. But I kind of realized on the second watch that for the most part, he was dictating whatever the rules he wanted to. If he wanted the person to be aware that he screwed them over, they were aware that he screwed them over. If he wanted the person to cooperate with him, they would sort of cooperate with him. That's why you kind of have the scene with the president and that kind of stuff where he's on board with Maxwell Lord fully, but not everybody in the room is. And then you have other scenes like with Stag, where Stag's like, wait, what's going on? And like that kind of stuff. And from that perspective, once I kind of fed into my own understanding of the rules, I very much enjoyed the way sort of Maxwell Lord kept going for more. And like, I know he kept saying, what more is there than to just go for more? But I really liked the way some of that played out. And I really liked the way you could connect the dots between what he was doing and how it was pushing the world to this self-destructive state. One thing I found very interesting on it, though, is sort of like the downside. I'm not sure that every wish had a downside. It all depended on what Max was doing with it that would determine the downside. Like early in the movie where the guy wishes for coffee, I'm guessing the fact that the coffee was hot was the downside.
Yeah,
because you hear it like maybe.
Ooh, that's hot.
But there were other times like when his assistant asked for help, or when like that stuff didn't seem to have a downside, because Max never defined like, I'm taking this in return.
Well, no. See, the downside with the intern is all the interns wanted Porsches, and this is the old lady.
I'm not talking about the intern. I'm talking about when he first goes there and she says, I wish I had some help.
Oh, yeah.
And like, there were certain like with the interns and the Porsches, he said, I'm going to take this in return, or I'm going to do this in return. And I think that's where the downside started to kind of play in. When he would define what he's getting out of it, whatever he's getting out of it has to have a downside.
Yeah, he was attributing Well,
I don't think he was intentionally doing that, but I think that's how it worked. But this is all me paying way more attention than I probably should be to everything in the
rules. The Porsches on the road.
But I liked the way a lot of this kind of worked out. I liked the way they used Maxwell Lord in this movie. I found it interesting that we didn't get really resolution with him or with Barbara Cheetah at the end of this movie. We don't know what happened to them after things start to settle. It was just people renounced and he got his son back, and Barbara vanished but was still alive.
Yeah. I was okay. I mean,
I was okay with that.
Open, just because.
But I'm a little surprised they didn't show us something with Max after he was so publicly doing all this. So
yeah, I'm sure it didn't go well for him.
Yeah, but no, this is kind of where, and like we've talked about this, like sometimes it's worse being mediocre. And while I enjoyed this movie and I thought it was good, I don't think it was, because it doesn't live up to the first movie, because it's not so horrible, at least in my opinion, that it would need to be to get people talking the other side. I feel like it's just didn't live up to the expectations. Therefore, it's not going to have the life that the other one had, basically.
Kevin and Toby, bring it home, guys. What do you guys think?
Maxwell
Obviously,
Lord?
yeah.
I have a lot of questions about Maxwell Lord.
Okay. I'm ready to answer.
Well, no, at times it seems like he only does one wishes per person, because he had the one assistant he talked to, and he goes, "Wait, did you already wish something? I can't help you," or he already used it.
It's supposed to be one person, yeah.
Yeah, but then didn't Cheetah get two?
No, and I can answer this one.
Okay.
So he asked Cheetah what she wanted on the helicopter.
Yes.
When other people were making their wishes over the TV, he was specifying, give her your rage in return for this. Give her your strength in return for this. So it wasn't so much that he was granting her wish, he was taking stuff from other people's wishes and granting it to her.
After she wanted to be Wonder Woman.
Because she was like, "Oh, I want to be like this alpha, I want to be
So,
the apex
predator. You're the villain, baby."
And from that kind of viewpoint, it's not even necessarily what she viewed as an apex predator. It would be what Max viewed as an apex predator.
And you know why Max viewed a cheetah as an apex predator? Because he had cheetah skins draped over his couch. And did you see all of the other cheetah prints that were in the movie? In the pumps, in the skirt, in the shirt? Yeah. Everywhere there was cheetah print in this movie except on Cheetah. Ugh, so bad.
That's not the only question I have about Maxwell Lord. Look, it starts us with him just needing money and trying to become rich for his kid, or fulfill his kid's wishes, right? So he researched the stone, he finally got it, and he gets in control of the oil, and then he kind of goes crazier from there on. But he becomes the wishing stone, right? He gets to grant wishes to other people. Is it just so he could take other people's stuff in return? The stone takes something, but I guess the stone decides him. Since he becomes the stone, he decides what he takes from the other people.
Yeah, that's what's wrong with that. That's what you were saying. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and then he can use.
Is he becoming the stone just so he can take from people what he wants? That's why he goes offering his wishes.
So yes, his whole thing is going to people that have something he wants, getting them to wish for something they want, or tricking them into wishing for something he wants, which he can then determine what he takes back in return as
like. Okay, build on that as a two-part question. Why does he need to fulfill as many people's wishes as possible in the end?
So
I took that. Well, I took some of that as just being like kind of the like in Aladdin when he becomes a genie, it's sort of like, oh fuck, you've become this thing and you can't control
powers.
Yeah, you kind of can't control it, and he's getting more and more power, and it's just sort of overwhelming him, right?
But what if the world is destroyed?
I mean, I don't know that he can really control it at that point.
So I don't think I don't think he was really cognizant of how close the world was getting to total destruction there at the end and that kind of thing. But the reason why I saw him needing everybody is a single wish was not going to fix the health problems that each of these wishes was putting on himself. Like there was still a downside, like being the stone was having a physical cost. By getting everybody to kind of wish at once, he was able to fully heal himself and do all this with sort of that pool of energy he was bringing in.
And that's why I said, this spirals out of control so quickly that I think he just he lost his control over it and just didn't know how to react, right? And it was.
Did I dream this part? He was actually at one point like wanting people's parts so he could live forever, or
yes, he was saying if I have to build myself organ by organ.
So it's not that he wanted people's parts. It's so every time he was wishing, he was like grabbing his head, having bloody noses, blood vessels bursting in his eye. Yes, he had a bloody nose.
And so that's all like his mind control powers from the comics. I think
you need to take the mind control powers out of this because I don't think they showed that at all in this movie. So therefore, that doesn't exist.
They didn't show Maxwell Lord having the powers. They showed the Dreamstone having influence.
Yeah, because he grabs people and he's like, "This is the thing you want, right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so, like, I don't know that they
$10 million, don't you? Wouldn't you say yeah?
No, but there are points where he's like, "Don't you want me to have this? Don't you want me to do this?" Like he was clearly more than what's that?
That's you knowing too much about the character. I don't think any normal will
get that. I don't think you need to necessarily like. I agree it could be either way, but I also kind of agree that assuming that he could just, if they say yes, he gets to consider that their wish, which is the way it seemed to work. I think most people, if they were your boss and they said, "Don't you wish the company was successful?" you'd say yes, regardless of if you believed it or not, because it's your boss.
Yeah. Well, it's with that. It's with the secretary that's freaking out about all the phone calls, and he goes, "Well, wouldn't you wish for more help?" She's like, "Yeah, I'd wish for more help because in that moment, that's what she would want, right? That's not what she wants in the grand scheme of things." And the thing is I don't remember. Like I said, does anyone recall what what was taken from her?
No, but
I don't think anything had to be taken. Is the point? I think once he was the stone, he got to make the decision of what to take.
Yeah, and at the beginning too, right? I mean, we don't know. Wonder Woman starts losing her powers, but we don't know, or she doesn't realize. No one said you're now going to lose your powers because of this, right? So all those early wishes were just like, he didn't have to tell anyone what he told us, the audience, what was happening. He didn't have to tell any of those people what was going to happen.
Stone, wasn't it taking what's most precious to you? Or
that's the way it's supposed to work. Yeah. But Max changed the rules by becoming the stone.
He just started to he could control what he was taking.
Yeah, so I caught on more in the second watch when he was with that oil king of the crude, right? And he grants the guy's wish, and then he's like, "I'll take all your oil," and he starts laughing at him like, "I sold it to the Saudis." Ha 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 ha. He's like, "Well, then I take your security detail." Like it was just that's what he wanted, that's what he took, right? Like that wasn't what that guy really needed, but yeah, it was not completely clearly defined.
Well, no, when it was stone, doesn't it take what's most precious to you?
Well, that's the way the stone, when it was the stone, worked. Yeah. So now the stone would judge what to take. When he becomes the stone, he gets to judge what to take.
But my point is, if the stone takes what's most precious to you, you're telling me that Wonder Woman's most precious thing is her powers?
Well, I mean that it's her Amazonian life, right? I mean that is her heritage. Those powers are connected to that. With Cheetah, I mean it took like her personality, it took goodness, right?
But the issue that I had with that was Barbara wished to be like Wonder Woman. Yeah. And special. And so all of those qualities that she would lose would be qualities that she would gain wanting to be Wonder Woman.
But she gained it very surface level, not the heart, not the the personality, any of that stuff. She gained, the physical nature and attractiveness, but the downside to that was she lost her
humbleness, her humanity,
exactly. Yeah.
Also, keep in mind that regardless of when it was the stone, and I feel like when it was the stone, it's a little bit easier to judge. Whatever the meaning, like Wonder Woman never even says out loud her wish.
Yeah.
She just sort of wishes silently. Like when
And
it's the stone.
the air blows her hair. Like,
Yeah. But it's that idea of your understanding of what you're going to get from it. And if that's, it may be very surface level with being like, I want to have her grace and all that when Barbara makes the wish. Like she may have said, I want to be like Diana, but the intention behind what she attributed to be like Diana meant, I think, still comes into play.
She said it out loud. She even listed out what she liked about Diana. So
yeah. Toby, don't get me wrong. It is, a lot of this is not clearly defined. It is sort of, I think some of it left up to interpretation, and maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally. I don't know. That's just these are, I think, our interpretations of these events. That's what it seems like. I again, with Magic, the rules tend to not be fast and hard. I mean, they tend to be fast and loose, right? They can kind of mess around with them all they want. So
things like Highlander. This is why you watch Highlanders, because a set of rules and you live by it.
There could be only one, except there's like always 1,000 of them. It's fine. It's fine.
There's only one Green Lantern per section, except when there's 14.
Except there's 7. Kevin, I know you're a JLI head. I know this is not, and this is not my Maxwell Lord either.
No. And comic accurate doesn't mean that it's got to be comic accurate to be good. Certainly not. But I don't really have anything more to add. I was just thinking as you guys were talking, I remember when we had Sam Hamm on the show. Yeah. God, it feels like 10 years ago. It was probably 1 year ago, maybe 2. Anyway, at the end, we were asking him some like kind of quick hitter questions, and the topic of Batman Returns came up. And I believe he referred to it as a good Catwoman and Penguin movie co-starring Batman. Yeah. Something like that. Some wording close to that. That's what this was to me. This is why it kind of reminds me of those old, by old, I mean like 90s superhero movies. It's a Max Lord and Cheetah movie with special guest star Wonder Woman.
But I mean, that's usually how these sequels work, even with the current movies.
But you know who's avoided that is Marvel. The heroes are always front and center in Marvel. That's why there's so much criticism that the villains are bland in some of them, because it's about the heroes. Yeah. And it just was so much, I don't know, and I'm not going to watch it again with a stopwatch, but it seemed like, just off the top of my head, it's a 2.5 hour movie, roughly. I don't know, something like that. It really felt while watching like 1 hour and 45 of that was Max Lord. It just was punishing after a while with all the scenes of the wishes and the wind blowing and shit happening and the oil fields and the terrorists and the nuclear weapons. And
it's definitely way more Diana Prince than Wonder Woman. That's for sure. I'm not going to argue that. I obviously wish there was maybe a couple extra action sequences, but I'm
gonna say this as a guy that grew up from like we're all the same age. We all been there for the horrible dark ages where one superhero movie comes out every 10 years. And then you're gonna just like it because that's all you're gonna get, right? So if this movie came out during like the Christopher Reeve superhero era, as in that like era of movies, like
after Superman 2,
I would have actually no problem with this movie. I think it's because it's oddly it's 1984, because if this came out in 1984, I'd be like, this is awesome.
The bar is very high now.
Oh, yeah.
I think a movie in that caliber doesn't quite work today anymore. Or just like, with those plot devices. At least that was my first thought when I watched the movie. When I, finished the movie, I was like, I would have liked this when, I was 7 in the 80s. This would have been awesome. But in today's world, when you go against the Marvel universe and
I don't think that's fair, because this is not supposed to be those movies. Brock, you even told me, right? You said my daughter loved it, right?
Yeah, my daughter loved it. Because she's not thinking about these plot, shitty plot devices, and like, oh, what is this connected to or whatever. She's watching, Diana Prince and Wonder Woman just kick ass on screen, and she's watching all of these characters that she can get behind.
Episodes of cartoons version of this storyline, or hundreds of comic books with this storyline, and other movies with this storyline. So that works. Like,
no, I never want to say we are not the target audience. I think they go into these movies with such a general audience mind, right? They want these movies to appeal to everyone. But I much like in the comic books, when we've read the 18th Batman origin story in a 30-year period, we're like,
pearls didn't fall in the right way. The pearls fell the wrong way.
But for some people, that's going to be the first time they ever see, his origin. So I think, and guys, the MCU is it's gonna turn faster than you think. And we were talking about this, and we were talking about some of the upcoming movies, right? I mean, we're closer to. I think we're closer to we're closer to a young Avengers movie than another Avengers movie, right? Yep. And all of a sudden we're going to be like, what the fuck is this nonsense? Like, who the fuck are these characters? I don't give a shit about any of them. Where's Captain America, right? I mean, the same thing that happens to us in the comics is going to happen to us in the movies. And I think with these stories, this is, I especially being on HBO Max and during COVID and Christmas, I'm sure this was a significant amount of people's first exposure to Wonder Woman in like a real serious manner that didn't see the first one, that didn't see Justice League. So, I mean, this is not my favorite movie by far, right? There's definitely problems with it, but I think, this isn't to you, Kevin or Toby, but the hate online comes from like a real nasty place, I think. There's clear problems, but I think the movie's heart's in the right place at the end of the day. Yeah. And it just, there's I don't want to say bitter or jaded or whatever, but I think I was able to just step back or very quickly. I realized this was going to be not the first movie. During the mall scene, I'm like, okay, this is the tone they're going for. I'm mentally adjusting. I'm preparing. This is not going to be a gritty war movie, right? This is not what it was going to be. So I think that helped my impression of the movie a little bit, because obviously expectations were super, super high. But again, yes, if you've seen the same movie 50 times and we saw all those movies in the 90s and you don't want to watch that movie again, I totally understand that.
Yeah, it's also the same reason why, some of the shows you love, I'm like, I watched the show, like, that Lucifer show you love so much. I watched the show 100 times before that with other characters that got swapped out, right? So
Lucifer's not the best show ever either, but what's funny, whenever Max Lord went up to someone, I swear, cause I thought he was going to turn into Lucifer, because he's like, what is it you desire? What is it you wish? It's like, it's the exact same line. It's the exact same presentation. It's just he changes the word desire to wish. It's really funny.
I actually don't want to hate this movie. And in fact, I don't think I really do adore Gal as Wonder Woman. I really like Patty's work. And I think my expectations just were sky high. When I watched this, it was like, wait, really? This is a Jeff Johns, Patty Jenkins co-written movie, and this is what we got, So maybe my expectations were just in the complete wrong place, because I kind of do like how things resolved at the end. I just wish like the way they played him. I wish they played him less like a '90s villain, and just did a more serious take from him from the beginning. And I would have enjoyed it 10 times more. Now, I have to say, kind of segueing away to Cheetah, that when they announced Kristen to play her, I was like, really? I was not really, on board on that one. I was like, that was a weird casting call. I have to say, I mean, besides the cheesy nerd thing that they're doing in the beginning of the movie, that they're doing in every single movie with the glasses and all of that, that's been overused. Besides that,
it is a cliche, but it's a cliche that works.
But I mean, no. But I have to honestly say, I was pleasantly surprised with her transformation.
Oh, her transition was great.
Yeah, I actually, when they first said she was going to be Cheetah, I was like, yeah. Like, and then I was like right after the Ghostbuster movie, which, I wasn't the biggest fan of either. But I actually quite enjoyed her in this. And I, hats off. I'm like, I didn't think it was going to work. And I actually kind of wanted to see more of her too.
Yeah, I think we got way more, or way less like cheetah, but more, God, I keep blanking on her name.
Barbara Minerva.
Barbara, yeah. Than I anticipated. I thought she might not. I thought. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't quite sure how much Max Ward we were going to get, but I feel like we got more Barbara Minerva and way less Cheetah than I thought we would. But the transformation I thought it worked, and again, I'm with you, Toby. That was a weird casting choice, but it seemed to work for me.
I thought she was the best part in the movie, especially towards the end.
And Kevin, obviously, the Catwoman comparison is, yes,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I want to come back. I don't really have anything more to say about Cheetah than what you guys just said. I want to come back to one of Brock's comments that your daughter loved the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great.
Yeah. No.
And I think I love that there's huge audience for this. And when I went to see the first Wonder Woman, each time I think I went by myself the first time because we were going to review it. But then the subsequent 2 times I took civilians.
Yeah.
Normal. Everybody wanted to see that. And if you looked at the audiences in those theaters, it wasn't a bunch of, Wednesday Warrior, middle-aged comic dudes. It was all over the spectrum, all ages, both genders. Just it was so cool to see, and I love that people love this movie. I'm not one of those people, but a very wise person in that movie industry once said to me, "You can't argue with an audience. If the audience is always right. If somebody says, I love this movie, you can't come back and say, no, you didn't. It was terrible. If somebody says, I hated this movie, you can't say to them, no, you loved it. It's great."
You can't say any of this right now because otherwise we won't have a podcast.
Yeah. the internet did a very good job of telling people that they should hate this movie over the weekend, right? And I'm not even like arguing. Like if you didn't like it, you didn't like it. And like Kevin, like you and Toby, your problems, and Brock, and I have problems with it too. Like, and your problems aren't not justified. It like I said, this is far from a perfect movie, but I think I don't know. To me, this movie doesn't have just like functional like movie making 101 problems. I think it's more tonal problems. That at least that's how I interpret.
Honestly, it makes sense. Like, the first one being a darker war movie, that this one, especially being in the 80s, that it would be a more family friendly flick.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that a lot of the normals are watching this one and never watched the first one are like, nah, that's what I worry about. But, I do hope people love it. I really do, because I want like 6 more of these movies.
Well, they're fast tracking 3.
That's funny. That's funny because Toby, as soon as they announced, I think was it Monday after the weekend that they said, or was it even on the weekend? I can't remember now. It was right afterwards.
Yeah.
When they said we're making a sequel to Wonder Woman after the first one set in the 80s, I was like, right on, bring it, give it to me. When they announced, Wonder Woman 3 fast track, my reaction was, ugh.
Ah, come on.
Toby, I really disliked this, and when I dislike a chapter, I'm not excited for the sequel to that chapter.
We know nothing about the sequel, right? I mean, the next one is what, in the 90s? It could be in today's time. It could be after.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah, so why not? I mean, I'm down. I'm in. I'm like, this one may have not been good for me.
I think when you start to get worse than 50% is when I start to get really nervous. I think the first one's great. Whatever you think of this one, like it or hate it, I think you've still got to have some respect for the third one. If the third one sucks and you're like, nope, then I think then you're out. To me, I think Star Wars. Jesus, sorry. I'm looking at stuff and I just read what I'm looking at.
We get it.
Well, that's what a perfect example, right? Of course, I was going to see the third Star Wars movie because I liked the first, well, the third of the new ones, because it had built up goodwill with me. And, one movie's not going to ruin it. Now, if I saw, like, I don't know, if I watched, like, 4 movies in a row that I really disliked, if, like, God, let's say Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, all, like, are horrible, that is gonna really take the wind out of my sails. But if, like, Eternal sucks,
But wait,
I
hold
expect
on.
it's gonna suck. But the others could be really fun. You know what I mean? Like, I need a flops and flops and flops in a row. So the Snyder people, right? If you hate, or the anti-Snyder people, if you hated Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, then you're out, right? I mean, then I totally understand that. You're not gonna try Shazam. You're not gonna try Aquaman, even though they're totally different movies. I get it.
I'm not saying I'm out. My comparison for you, Ryan, would be you were less excited for episode 9 because of your reaction to The Last Jedi.
Yeah, of course.
That's all I'm saying. I am less excited for a Wonder Woman 3 because of this than I was for Wonder Woman 2. That's all.
Are you excited for 4 DCU movies and 2 HBO Max DCU movies a year? Because that's their schedule.
Fine, bring it on. Wait, are you trolling right now? I don't get it.
No. That's what the head of Warner Brothers said. They want to do.
We have nothing to complain about, right? I mean, again, we're coming from Christopher Reeve Superman, and that's all you're gonna get. And then 10 years later, you're gonna get one Batman movie, and then maybe a sequel, and then you got some really bad sequels. But and a horrible Punisher movie, and really bad Spider-Man TV movies, and really bad, like, coming from that to, like, having pretty much like a superhero movie every other month for a while, not last year or not this year, I mean, but
we'll be at
complain about. I'm like,
oh, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like,
like, I love the fact that if this was not for me, that in about 2 years there's going to be another Wonder Woman movie that I can love. I mean, and I still somewhat. I mean, look, I'm gonna give it one more watch where I watch everything
all at once, all the way through. No Tobys.
No Tobys. Although the last one there was no Tobys. Is I just ran out of time and had to, like, skip forward a bit, and I was trying to find the parts that I missed. But like if this one didn't hit the notes for me, I still got the first one, and I still want this team to make more. And in a couple of more years, there'll be another one.
Yeah. The pace we're about to hit is going to be like 3 to 4 MCU movies, 3 to 4 DCU movies, 2 HBO Max DC movies,
like 6 Marvel TV shows.
I was going to say like 4 to 6 Marvel TV shows a year and a dozen DC shows a year.
And don't forget all the Star Wars stuff, because we kind of have to talk about that too.
Holy shit.
But they haven't said what those DCU things are, right?
Wow.
Cyborg.
Right. My bet with all of you still stands on that.
No, they
well, they specifically said Batgirl and Static Shock for DC, for HBO Max movies.
Like they said, the more, I guess, not so public friendly ones, not normal friendly is the code word, really, are going to be
all the white people will have movies in theaters.
Yeah,
and then all the white men will have movies in theaters.
It's a cool one.
They said Batwoman and Static Shock, or the one. I mean,
it's shit.
I'm not.
It's
very obvious thing. Unfortunately, Batman's going to have a lot of movies in theaters, and Batgirl won't. So, Charlie, what were you saying?
I was going to say one thing I did really actually appreciate about this movie, and it's weird to say, but I feel like the movie was consistent all the way through. Like, I feel like it stayed on vision and everything. Like, one of the things that struck me about the first one, and one of the things I always think about when I think about the first one, is how it had a sort of thematic theme that kind of fell by the wayside at the end with the big Ares battle, and then just all of a sudden everybody's kind of friendly, and like the war's over, and like up until that point they seem to be very focusing on sort of like a message of the war's not just being caused by some god, that's like there are men making decisions and stuff into this. I feel like this entire movie was very, very consistent in sort of the vision to the execution, which I liked.
And hats off to WB for making this available on their platform. I mean, they could have easily wanting to charge for it like Disney did, and I think all of us would have easily paid for it. So
yeah. Well, this was their like. They're like, we gotta get numbers on HBO Max, and I'm sure it did really well.
It still did decent in whatever theaters it was released in. It was what, 85 million?
Yeah, I think it was like 84 and change. That's like 2 weeks international plus domestic here, and that's with how so few movie theaters open, people
with
were willing
COVID,
to go.
it's like, I mean,
I will say that now that the kind of the big experiment has been launched with these new movies at home, in the past week I watched this and Tenet, and what really struck me more than anything is, damn, I miss going to a movie theater. It just doesn't feel as special. You know what I mean? It just feels like you're dialing something up on Netflix. Like as soon as it is an option to see a big release like Dune or James Bond or Eternals, whatever, I'm there in a theater as soon as I can be, because this is just not cutting it.
Well, like even with Old Guard earlier this year released on Netflix, like I would have actually liked to see Old Guard in the theaters. Like it was, I enjoyed it.
From let me pull it up in the podcast group. I know Craig Anderson put it's down here a little bit. He basically put not talking about the movie, but let's talk about seeing it at home. Oh yeah, here he goes. He says, setting aside what you think about the Wonder Woman 84, what do you think about watching the premiere of a tentpole movie at home? I hated it. I would much rather be in the theater.
Yes, agreed, Craig.
I liked being
I wouldn't say hated.
Go to the bathroom.
Not hated. It just felt cheaper. The whole experience felt cheaper.
It is
cheaper on the pocket money.
Well, you know what I mean. It's not an event.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it is. There's good and bad. To me, it's good because I can pause it and go to the bathroom. I can get food. But then I also have to pause it when my dog starts barking, right? But the bad is, or the counter to that is, you're at a movie theater with some asshole next to you that's on their cell phone for half the movie, and you can't really do anything about it.
The floor is sticky.
So
you don't have a comfy seat.
There's, I don't know. Maybe some movies I would still go to the theater. I would have to kind of go back and something would have to like really wow me again. I mean, I love going to movie theaters. I think it's not as bad as I was hoping. I've got a bigger TV and an okay setup, so I think that helps. I think I think
my body wasn't shaking with the bass and the reverb and explosions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't have crazy stuff.
I'm not getting, but
in today's world, I'm really happy that they're letting us see AAA movies at home.
Yeah,
for the time being.
I'm sure a movie, kind of got pretty mixed reviews. I probably use a better experience at the theater. I remember when Dunkirk, people said like they watched it at home and they were really bored by it, but just the experience in the theater, Dunkirk was amazing. But the experience in the theater is, such a different thing. I don't know that Wonder Woman would have played very different in the theater. I feel like it maybe wasn't big enough.
So I will say this, and this kind of goes to what you were saying earlier, because I actually disagree with you, Ryan. So HBO Max did have it in 4K and that kind of stuff, but it had a very specific list of devices that they updated to be able to play 4K. Like HBO Max is on my Roku now, but because I have like the 2017 Roku, they did not include that in their list of supported devices. So
really?
My Roku couldn't play in 4K. My TV couldn't play in 4K. I finally realized my PS5 app had it listed in 4K, so I could watch it that way. But their list of supported devices was not as wide as it should have been, considering a lot of these devices were
still well
4K devices that were really like, that was the whole selling point of like the Roku Ultra that I got, like the 2017, was the fact that it was like a 4K player, and the fact that they didn't support that particular device, but a newer Roku device bothered me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's strange. I thought it would have been pretty just universal if it supported it. Had it. So,
but like again, like my TV, if I use tons of other apps, 4K just fine, but HBO Max no. So I had to go hunting to figure out what device could I actually watch it in 4K on.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Well, as I'm sitting there watching Tenet, the Blu-ray on a 65-inch screen with the bass Brock like threatening to bring the roof down, and the aspect ratio is changing to the IMAX ratio and back to widescreen, and I'm just sitting there going, "God damn, that would have been cool in an IMAX screen."
Yeah,
sure.
It's like rubbing it in my face, and I'm not. That's not a comment on the quality of the movie. I'm just saying the experience. It's just like, oh, that would have been so cool. Oh, that would have been really cool.
I do miss the theater big time. I mean, once we go back to normal life, I am definitely going back to the theater. For me, it's the whole thing. You know, just going to the theater, the trailers. I love it all. I mean, I really, actually, I'm one of those guys that, you know, goes there in time for the trailers to watch all the trailers, to watch the movie, stays after the movie. You know, I like to chat in the hallways with people. Our people, not strangers. I'm not.
Do you guys think this just will reinforce people who are maybe on the fence, or do you think this is like, no, fuck it, once it's here, it's here? It's because I don't know.
But you're only talking about Warner movies. Like, not every studio is going to be doing that model.
Well,
only announced next year. They didn't say anything beyond that.
This for me is kind of what it comes down to already, though. Like, and Tenet I haven't watched yet, but is a perfect example of a movie that I absolutely would have been like, went on my way to see in the theater. But there's tons of movies that I go, I'm gonna just wait till it's on Netflix, or I'm gonna To a degree, I've already started judging movies not based on am I interested in seeing that movie, but do I feel like the theater experience will be elevated watching this movie in a theater.
Well, that's
and
what I think
the only difference to that was when I was signed up with the A-list through AMC, because again, that was more of a, when movies are free, I no longer have to decide based on ticket price if I feel like the movie will be elevated seeing it in a theater.
Well, this has been just like the problem with movies in general, I think, over the last 10, 20 years, and is that, you know, the random romantic comedy or the random, like, you know, indie film is not going to have the draw it maybe once would have, because people are like, I'm not going to waste my time seeing this in the theater.
Well, we have the year-round blockbusters now.
It's got to be bigger, and there are no small movies in theaters anymore. It's only these massive blockbusters. Just, you know, you occasionally get some indie darling that or, you know, some Oscar winner that kicks people back into actually seeing in theaters. But at this point, stuff comes on streaming or on like on demand or you know, iTunes or whatever so quickly, even in a normal experience. I mean, I remember when Frozen 2 came out in theaters, you could pre-order the Blu-ray the same week.
Yep.
It was released in theaters.
And that is basically all movies now. You can pre-order the week of release at Best Buy and whatnot with exclusive steelbooks and all that stuff.
It's turned around so quickly. So, like, you know, the Marvel movies are obviously going to keep drawing people to the theaters. You know, but they're just after this year. With the, you know, you can get these smaller movies that end up streaming on Netflix. I think that's, you know, TV has become like, whoa, we can get there's so many more people watching television now. We have a lot of, it's movie-like quality, movie actors, movie production, but now on television. You know, I think that, you know, that's where the drama is going. That's where the comedy is going. That's where other forms are. Where it's just the big blockbusters now. And obviously this has been the way it's been for a while, but I think this has made this even more severe in its, you know, the decline of the cinematic experience.
Can we get back to the movie? Can we talk about the
Yeah.
we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, what do you want to talk about?
Steve Trevor.
Yeah.
I felt like I wish didn't. Look, remember last week when we got asked what were some of the tropes we didn't like, and I said Freaky Friday was one of them.
Yeah.
This is right up that alley. Like, one, I thought it was slightly weird when watching the movie that Diana was totally cool with Steve taking over someone's body, like that someone's life stopped for him to exist. And then sure, in the end of the movie, she renounced the vision. That guy got to continue his life, but in a way, I thought that was kind of weird for Diana, especially because she would be the first one to sacrifice her own needs over someone's life, and I thought that was kind of weird. But on the other hand, too, I really liked him in the first movie, and I felt like it was maybe too cheap to use him in this one, like to bring him back like again or for something else, or he plays like a grandson or something like that. I think now that you open this block up once already, that it's going to be so much harder to make something special the next time around. And I felt like they didn't use this one to their, like, I guess the best way they could. Like I didn't care for him at all in this movie, like except for when he goes, Diana, you gotta give me up, and it was him that said it. And in ways it might have not even been him to begin with, and who knows if it's actually the real, the soul from the old Steve in this one, or if it's just a version of him that the genie or the gift gave or the stone gave to her. But oh man, I'm bummed because I love Steve Trevor in the first movie, and I felt like it was just like, I wish he wasn't in this movie to have a bigger impact with that character down the road, and I felt like they may have cheapened out on this one.
Toby, I totally agree with you. I think one of the problem is that Steve's story
is done
in the first movie.
Yeah.
Well, literally it's done because he dies. But I mean, the arc of that story with him and Diana is completely played in that first movie. And I think you're in a situation where you see, oh, Chris Pine's really charismatic. They have great chemistry together. Let's find some way to get him in the sequel. And that's the driving factor rather than what's the creative version of why that character would be back. I think it started with, we have to get him back. How do we cram him in this?
And I think that's where I have the issue, right? Because I felt like the magic that was in the first movie was not necessarily in this movie, which is what bothers me. If they were able to somehow make this work, I'd be all for it because I really do like Chris Pine, and I really like his version of Steve Trevor. I just felt like in this movie, that was one of the things it just didn't work for me, right? And I really wanted like whatever, like it's another version of him or he jumps time or whatever, like, whatever they came up with this time around, just didn't work for me, and I'm a little bummed about that because I really, really do like him as Steve.
I saw a lot of comments about the body swap thing and like, oh, she raped this guy. It's like,
I don't go that far. I'm not.
Yeah,
I came up in conversation on Monday.
I don't know. I think it's. I'll put the magic defense back up and just say I think that was not the intent there.
I almost would have preferred if he just showed up. Like,
yeah,
I almost like I just didn't care for he was in another person's body. That part is like
that did seem a little unnecessary.
Yeah, he just showed up, right? I would have been like, cool. But the way they did it is just didn't. And again, look, maybe it works for other people. It just didn't work for me. So
no, it did seem a little. That did seem pretty unnecessary. They didn't really need.
Well, I think it was I think it was that transition where this random guy is talking to her, like, what the heck? And then they do that spin motion. Yeah. And then it's like, okay. And then later on, he basically tells her what happened when I was like, well, I could have easily just seen him wake up in this body, right? And then look in the mirror and go, what the heck? And then he sees this other face, but then his face starts to just take over.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Like, I think Brock, it's putting a hat on a hat.
Yeah,
like she just wish him back, and he appears.
Yeah.
And then get on with the story. Because the problem is, as Toby I think was saying, is like she's taking that guy into combat situations, and that's just an innocent dude possessed by this spirit. It's like, what if that guy got blown up when they were in the Middle East?
Yeah. Also, I mean, they went through his house. So,
they ate all his Pop-Tarts and his Cheese Whiz.
no, but I just thought that was unnecessary for me. If he just showed up, he did the Terminator thing, like a light showed up and he's there naked and he has to like go, what the hell is happening with me and what is this new world? That would have been totally fine with me. Like, you know, he just shows up in that ballroom. I'm here. I don't know how, but I'm here, right? That would have been fine with me. The whole, you know, taking over someone's body was a little weird, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, I think there was better ways they could have handled that. It did seem like kind of an unnecessary plot point there.
Now, I am curious about everybody's view on the Linda Carter cameo in this movie.
That was a highlight.
I thought that scene was brilliantly done, like really well done.
So that armor, I mean, the armor is from Kingdom Come, obviously. That character and that origin is not that. I mean, they made that up for the movie.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a cool idea, and you know, it's fun to throw her in there. And you know, I mean, hell, if they want to do something with her in the future, that'd be awesome. But she could be like, you know, kind of a new version of a Hippolyta if they want to have some kind of mother figure for her in the future. But no, you know, if it's just a throwaway and that's it, then that's cool too. But yeah, no, I always like when they bring those characters, when the old actors back.
I thought it was a good nod. So
yeah, fit. I wasn't sure if they were going to do something like post credit, like if they were going to do some Snyder cut tease or if they were going to tease something else. We didn't know, but no, it's
Hey, did you see the quote from the Warner Brothers? I don't know who it was, VP or CEO, or about the Snyder cut in the last couple of days.
Calling like a cul-de-sac.
And what's so bizarre is like when we were talking about it, I don't know, 2 months ago, I'm just randomly pulling something out of my ass to make a metaphor and describe it as a cul-de-sac because they're not doing any more with Zack Snyder. And then the dude says it today in a published interview, like, whoa. So I guess it is. I guess he is done, which makes it all the more baffling. They're spending all that money for the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be like a museum piece.
Well, his name was on this movie too.
Yeah. Because he's still a producer.
Yeah.
You can't say
and I don't think they're going to do anything to remove his name from anything when he's the one that brought in the actors and like that kind of thing. Like I think he has it in the contract where he will continue to be producing these movies for Wonder Woman 3 and beyond. The 5 more movies that Toby wants will all be produced by.
No, I think it's too early to say that, right? If the Snyder Cut is a crazy hit that everybody's talking about and it's positive all across the board, I'm sure something will be done to have Snyder have to do another one.
I'll tell you this: there is a 0% chance that it will be positive across the board. Okay.
You know, it's still 2020, and you know you still have ways to just put things down. You know, what's your hope, Ryan? And I'm not even a Snyder fan.
Neither am I. I would like it to be good. I'm hoping it's good, but there are people that are going to hate it. A large portion of people will refuse to watch it. Period.
2020 is not over. There's still a few days left, and those people could be like beamed away.
I mean, the toxicity around the fandom is just so bad that there is just a huge group of people that will never give the movie a chance, good or bad, whether it deserves it or not. And I'm not saying they're really wrong to do it because I get people that are just like checking out of Star Wars and the Snyder Cut and all that because the fandom is so toxic. But I have no idea what is Zack Snyder's role. I mean, I don't think he's producing anything, right? I mean, he's done.
No, but I think what basically happened.
Production?
I think what happened, or at least the way I'm reading this, and somebody can correct me if they have a better source on this, but the impression I've gotten is because he cast Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and cast like Jason Momoa as Aquaman and like all of that stuff that kind of spun out of his movies, he will continue to get production credit when those characters are used.
Yeah, I have no idea. Even if he has nothing to really do with the movie.
Even if he has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because I don't think he really did anything with this movie. Did he? Did he have any real involvement? I can't imagine.
Put a producer credit on Shazam.
Yeah.
Well, the classic example of this, we don't need to go into it now because of how long we're running, but anybody can look it up. Michael Uslan, Uslan.
Oh, yeah.
That guy is the king of all time in that he bought the movie rights to Batman for like a nickel when nobody was interested. And so, and he still owns any Batman live action theatrical release movie that guy gets a cut of and gets a producer credit on.
Yeah.
Because he bought it at a time when it was just drifting and no one gave a shit because superheroes were like, that's the king. That's the great, him and George Lucas. You just got to bow down.
Universe.
Well, we're gonna have a shockingly shorter than the movie podcast here as our movie podcast tend to go kind of long. Last thoughts? Anything we didn't touch on? She flew. That was cool. She glided on the air currents. To be technical, I believe that
they could have done without lassoing lightning.
Oh, I like that. I kind of like that.
I thought, okay, two things.
I didn't like the Superman.
Well, I'll talk about that.
The flight thing was fine, except for the fact that it seemed like they were like, she can fly. No, she can lasso. She can fly. She can lasso.
Yeah, you go a little back and forth.
I have to admit, flying into fireworks drove me a little crazy. I'm just like, that doesn't seem like a good idea, regardless of.
Kevin, your Wonder Woman knowledge might be a little bit better than mine with some of these specifics. I believe her flying ability is that she glides on air currents. Is that correct? Does that sound right? She doesn't fly like Superman.
Correct.
Yeah.
I believe that is correct, but that was established long ago. That's not the new
No. There are continuities in a lot of stories where Wonder Woman doesn't fly, and in the recent comics, it's kind of gone back and forth a few times. But I believe that the classic Wonder Woman flying, that's how she flies. There's no kind of reason that Superman flies. Like there's no explanation for it. Really,
well, the Wonder Woman, I think it is, and Rafi's probably screaming at the. But I think I think with Wonder Woman, it's a binary. If she has the invisible plane, is a Wonder Woman who doesn't fly.
No, okay,
and the one who can fly is in a era when that device is not used in this comics.
I totally thought when Steve said, "I have something up" or wants to try, and that he flies straight up. I'm like, oh my god, is he going to the moon? Is he going to the moon?
What? On the moon?
Yeah, no.
Sure, why not throw it in?
No, like right after the fireworks, he said something about let me try this or let me I want to do this, and he flies straight up. I'm like, they're not doing the Burton shot, are they? With like the plane right at the moon and then comes back down. At least that's what I was thinking.
No, I actually liked the flight, like her learning to fly in that scene, and I liked her momentarily being in a Superman kind of pose, but then she kind of finds her own like pose for flying, and I think that worked really well.
I liked it when she turned around and was doing the backward swim while flying, which kind of looked like one of the Adam Hughes covers, which I thought was really
cool. Yeah, and that's, again, I think that's sort of like that sort of swimming kind of, riding the currents. I think that was sort of, I don't know how that came off to an average audience, but she can fly. Wonder Woman can fly in some.
And the lasso is kind of like Mjolnir, right? It's just riding it. You're just riding it.
Again, it's magic. I'm okay with it. Ride the lightning.
The magic exposition thing. Here, let me show you. Should have lassoed a bunch more people in that so we can get that stuff.
Simon Stagg. It was great.
Is that the first
teasing outsider shit, and it bothers the crap out of me.
But what else has Stagg been in? It's been referenced somewhere else, right?
Was it?
Was it on TV? Am I imagining this?
Maybe in Titans?
No,
I don't remember. Was it on? I mean, probably Arrow or something like that. But
that's what I was thinking. It was just some throwaway, but very cool to see it in this.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we talking about right now?
The Stagg Industries.
It wasn't Batman v Superman.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a. They had a viral marketing fortune article.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
the guy that Maxwell Lord was getting the money from, and he's one of like the first guys that he kind of confronts. So he, like the investor guy that backs out. That is Simon Stagg, the head of Stagg Industries, who creates Metamorpho. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Was there a caveman-looking bodyguard in the background?
Oh, Ryan, don't tease me. Like, can you just the movie goes up one letter grade if that guy just walks through the screen for me?
Hey,
how's his name?
The Globe of Raw in it. It goes up one, right?
Oh, God, what's the bodyguard guy's name?
Bodyguard.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name. But he's like a caveman guy. He's like a caveman dude. Yeah, or his daughter.
Was it Java?
That sounds right.
Is that right? Something like that?
Sounds right. Yeah, Java something.
Yeah, I like. I Metamorpho is such a cool character.
That would be an amazing.
God, I wish
translated to. You could do it animated. You could do live action. You could do a mix. It would be amazing.
Yeah, it's Java.
It'd be neat.
Java is his name. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a couple. I feel like there was some other kind of little reference that.
Besides Sandman?
I'm forgetting. Yeah. I feel like there's something else, but I don't know. It'll come to me.
You know, I still want to tell Ryan he's reaching, but when I say it, then 5 years from now, it's all going to tie into some Sandman.
If the Neil Gaiman Sandman Netflix show has a tie into Wonder Woman 84, I'll just be like,
you'll be insufferable.
Yeah, exactly.
More than normal.
More than normal. The worst. Right, I'm gonna write DC right now.
The bro henchmen or whatever they call the villains, the bro guys.
Oh, and Hawkeye.
Yeah, you're gonna be like those guys when that happens.
No, I already said I'm not watching Hawkeye. I'm done. I can't do it. They're the main villains. I'm out.
You're going to be just as annoying as them if that happens. If the Sandman universe connects to.
Hey, you agreed to watch Hawkeye if we can prove that they say "bro" less than 5 times in the premiere.
It's going to be in the first 30 seconds, and I'm just going to be like, done. Off.
No, we said unsubscribe, right?
Bro,
we'll see. Wonder Woman 84.
Now, I will say this. I think the music was a little bit of a letdown.
Oh, dude, I want an Atomic Blonde full-on 80s soundtrack so badly.
I am really disappointed there was no definitive Cheetah music. Wonder Woman had her theme, but Cheetah didn't really get it. And I think that I was like, eh.
I did like though with the Cheetah, I did enjoy, and by this I mean I did not enjoy how there's the one drunk harassing dude who just hangs around the city at all corners. It's that dude in the trench coat and the tie.
Yeah, with the penny loafers.
Yeah, and a bottle in a brown paper bag.
Yeah,
and it's just anywhere in the city where she happens to be, that dude's just hanging. I guess he doesn't have a job, or he puts his suit on and just goes out to harass women.
It's the 80s, man. Surprised there wasn't 1,000 of them.
Yeah, man. The other trench coat guy was Raphael from Ninja Turtles.
Now, when Ryan says there wasn't a lot of 80s in it, I think he's completely forgetting the gym scene. Because, man, oh, man, was there tons of 80s in there. Especially, did you see the meathead with the curly hair?
There was some.
It's in a 2.5-hour movie.
There was not as much as there could have been, okay?
I'm just disappointed we didn't see all the Porsches.
I want a woman with the fluff hair, like the puffed up hair.
All right.
that may be the cue.
Well,
I think we're done.
Do we have anything from our Patreon backers or people on the Facebook group?
then go look in the Facebook group if they want to see reviews. It was pretty mixed, as is reviews online and this podcast as well. So
well, allow me as we shuffle off stage here tonight to say I've enjoyed talking to you gentlemen about this movie more than I enjoyed watching the movie. So thank you for that.
That's what we're
okay. I'm just sitting here going, we're actually going to be under the runtime of the movie.
Yeah.
Significantly by like 45 minutes.
Well, Toby's not done. Toby's still on here, so.
We're going to start talking about Soul now.
I haven't watched it yet. Don't say anything.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet either.
Yeah, definitely watch it, Kevin. It's really
is that one, is that a pay one again, or is that they're doing?
No, it's just on Disney Plus.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to see what that one was all about, but I know it came out, and the kids will probably want to watch it. So.
No, they will not.
Why?
It is not a kids' movie at all.
Oh, it's not? It's like an adult Pixar movie?
No, but it is not a kids' movie.
Ryan, what movie did you watch?
Soul?
Yeah.
You kids are going to hate it. Well, not hate it. They're just going to be extremely bored.
I see that.
Yeah, it's not a kids' movie in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, when he said it was not a kids' movie, I was like, wait.
So you're saying I should use it as punishment?
My kids enjoyed it fine, but my kids are also a bit older, so...
Yeah. It's a pretty heady movie. It's like Inside Out, like, up another level, like, even more.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's really good. I don't know. I don't think kids would enjoy it.
I'll test it out on my kids, and I'll give you guys my kid review.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they will. I don't know, but I
already hated Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
But just wait another, 10 years. I'll love it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's our final episode of this year. We're going to have everyone on next week. We're going to kind of do a couple... I think I got pretty much everyone else confirmed. We're kind of like 2 episodes together, just sort of touching base, and there's no best of 2020. The best of 2020 is it being over.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna talk, have some things we like, things we didn't like, reminisce about the year. We're gonna kind of do it in 2 sections. So we should, hopefully, you guys are here for one of them, and then we're gonna have a bunch of other guests kind of doing another little side thing. So we'll see how it goes. Just kind of meander around. That should all be for next week. So in the meantime, please, one more time, go visit our wonderful high-tier Patreon backers. Patreon.com/comicconspiracy is where you can kick us a couple bucks. And if you are these great people, they give us the most money for this podcast. We appreciate them very much. That'd be Joe Duff, Jesse Peterson at the Comic Book Matters podcast, Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum podcast, Andrew Nelson Mendez at Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast. Please check out those guys. Give a listen to their podcasts. Craig Anderson over at clearpathcoaches.com, as well as Mario Miranda. He has a YouTube channel called The Comic Lounge. Go check that out. Geekbox.net. You can find all our previous episodes, as well as comicconspiracypodcast.com, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Don't forget, again, that patreon.com/comicconspiracy, where you can kick us a few bucks on the old Patreon.
Thank you.
Comicsconspiracy.biz is where you can buy some physical comics from us, either for in-store pickup or mail order. So please check that out. Also, go over to conspiratorbrock.com. It's Brock's blog, video pull list, and unboxing videos. Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension, Charlie's Doctor Who podcast. You guys cover in the new episode. Should be this week.
Yeah,
Look forward to the special.
We'll be recording it pretty much right after it airs, but it probably won't go up till the following Thursday.
Yeah, that's fine. And then Kevin's got Between the Panels at fanbasepress.com, a weekly interview series. And check out leannehill.com and her Etsy store, etsy.com/shop/leannehillart. That is my wife, and that is all her artwork is on there. Some prints you can buy. If you're on Twitter, follow us all, mostly. Ryan Higgins Ryan is myself. At Brock Sager. Brock, you got to get on you got to make that second account, buddy, and just roll it back when your account gets unbanned.
I got some shit to pimp. You got everybody but me.
Toby's Toby XI. What do you got to pimp?
My music video is coming out on the 1st.
Which one?
It's called Never Hold Me Down. There's trailers out there. That's by The Pack. And it's going to get released SmackDown on New Year's Day at midnight, right on the dot. At least
the band is The Pact?
The Pack.
The Pack.
Yeah. PAC. The Pack.
Excellent. It's going to be on YouTube?
Yep, YouTube.
Nice.
Everywhere else, I'm sure I'll pimp it too. Trailer's already up on their site, on their Instagram, on their Facebooks, all the social media, whatever the kids are doing these days, TikTok. But yeah, it's a music video that kind of started in one concept, went another way, completely took a right turn and became something else entirely. So I've been working on this for about I think 3 months every weekend, and it's finally coming out on the 1st.
Sweet.
Nice.
Sweet. Can't wait to watch it. It's Sanity and Chaos. That's Charlie on Twitter, and Kevin is that Kevin Sharp. Store is Comics Con Store. Go check out Geekbox. We talked about Wonder Woman this year, this week, so a very similar conversation, as well as Manga Machinations, our friends that do a manga podcast. Go check those guys out as well. All right, 2020, huh?
Now we talk about
2020. We're done. We're done with you. We're going to end this podcast.
You know what's next year, right, Ryan?
2021.
Yeah, but you know what it is for this podcast, right?
Haven't a clue.
It's our 10-year anniversary.
Fantastic. As well as episode 500 coming up. I'm sure we'll do nothing for it.
Wait, is 10 years matching up with the 500th episode?
Well, no, we've missed.
We've missed episodes. Yeah.
I don't know. First episode was
March of 2011.
Yeah, it's gonna be around the same time, I guess. So yeah, it'll be similar time. All right, we're done. We'll catch everyone next week. Next year. Next year.
Happy New Year.
Dad joke. See you guys later.